What's up, Star Wars nerds, and welcome to another episode of brettonfett. On today's episode, I'm finally going to be giving my review of the Book of Boba Fett as an entire season, and I'm going to talk about 10 new figures that I want to see in the vintage collection for the Book of Boba Fett line. Let's get to it. Welcome back to the channel. This is episode 6 of brettonfett, and like I said, today I'm finally going to be giving my thoughts, my review of the series The Book of Boba Fett as an entire season. And before I go any further, I just want to warn you guys, this is a spoiler review. There will be spoiler talk and spoiler images revealed. So please, if you haven't finished the Book of Boba Fett, go do that first and then come check this episode out later. Okay, so when it comes to this show, I have a lot of mixed feelings about it. There was so many things that were so awesome and exciting, yet there was so many things that felt a little off, or just not right, some more than others. And so, in order to give my full opinion of this show as a whole, I think the only way I can do it is just break it down episode by episode, rate each episode, and then kind of come up with an average to see how I really feel about it overall. So what I'm going to do is like a speed round review for each episode. I'm going to give each episode a rating, and then at the end I'm going to take an average to give a rating for the overall season, and then I'll give you some of my final thoughts for how I thought it went. Okay, so the first episode is Chapter 1, Stranger in a Strange Land. It picks up where we left off with Boba Fett at the end of Mandalorian Season 2, having taken over Bib Fortuna's palace. And you start to go into flashbacks to explain how Boba Fett got to here from after falling into the Sarlacc pit in Return of the Jedi. And it was awesome to be able to see that. It left a little bit to be desired. It seemed almost a little too easy, a little too quick on how he fought his way through or burned his way through the insides of that Sarlacc monster and escaped. But it's still good to see. So he becomes this prisoner under the Tusken Raiders, kind of a slave. So that was interesting. And he eventually earns their respect by the end of the episode. And overall, it was kind of a boring episode to me. There wasn't much action at all. It was just kind of ho-hum. So I gave it a 5 out of 10. Now, the second episode, Chapter 2, The Tribes of Tatooine, I loved this episode. A lot of good development, but a lot of action. They had this train scene where they fight the Pikes on this train. It was really awesome. I loved the development of his relationship with the Tuskens. You were introduced to Jabba the Hutt's cousins, the twins. That was awesome to see. It was great. And then you got this introduction of this really popular character from the comics named Black Krrsantan, a Wookiee bounty hunter / gladiator who's so awesome. This was a great episode. I gave it a 9 out of 10. Oh boy, this is where things get really dicey. In the third episode, Chapter 3, The Streets of Mos Espa, we're introduced to this gang of like misfit hip teens that have changed out some of their body parts for droid parts. They're like a bunch of Alita battle angels, and they drive around these really colorful speeder bikes that's supposed to be apparently like a callback to the mod gangs of London in the 60s where they drove around these colorful Vespas. And it really just does not fit in Tatooine. I mean, look how well dressed these guys are. Their bikes are so clean. This is supposed to be like the Old West on Tatooine. It's dusty, sandy, dirty. And despite the scarcity of water on this planet, they still managed to keep their speeder bikes sparkling clean. Even though when we first saw them in this episode, they were arguing with a guy for price gouging them on water, and they were just complaining about how they're going to survive. Yet they're keeping their speeder bikes sparkly clean on this desert planet. It makes no sense. And I swear to God, my 5-year-old daughter, when she saw these guys, she asked me if they were the Power Rangers. I mean, I know that's an internet joke going around, but my daughter was not aware of that, and she still asked if they were the Power Rangers. That's how silly these guys are. I mean, look at this video. They're in this ridiculous chase. It's like the slowest speed chase ever. And look at these guys. Look how dapper they look. I mean, who dresses like that on Tatooine in Star Wars? I mean, look at this guy. He's in a nice like 3-piece suit thing, and I mean, it's just so silly. I don't, it's just a huge miss on this show. Anyways, moving on. There was a cool scene where Black Chrysanthemum's fighting Boba Fett, but then even that's ruined when this stupid mod gang comes and ends up having to rescue Boba Fett. I mean, that was just dumb. The only redeeming quality from this episode was at the end when Machete himself, actor Danny Trejo, shows up as a Rancor keeper, delivering a new Rancor to Boba Fett. That was awesome. It was awesome to see him on this show. Awesome to see the Rancor. But not awesome enough to give this particular episode more than a 2 out of 10 rating. This was just pretty much a garbage episode. Alright, so the next episode is Chapter 4, The Gathering Storm. I like this one. This is a pretty good episode. You get to see how Boba Fett meets Fennec Shand. He actually rescues her from... She's got a gunshot to the belly. And he takes her to this mod shop where they can patch her up and they give her the cyborg parts. This was probably the worst part of the episode because it made me think about the mod gang again. Because you had some more of those kind of teens hanging out in this place and they're playing this techno music that was kind of odd. But aside from that, it was pretty good. Boba and Fennec go and rescue his ship, Slave One, from Bib Fortuna's palace. That was a pretty cool scene. And then we got this really awesome scene where Boba just wipes out this gang of Nikto bikers that he believed killed his Tusken family. So that was pretty cool. And then it ends with him meeting with the other mafia families in Mos Espa. So it got pretty interesting. Overall, I gave this one a 7 out of 10. If it didn't have the mod stuff in it, probably would have given it 8 out of 10. So the 5th episode is Chapter 5, Return of the Mandalorian. And this is an awesome episode, but what's strange about it is it just suddenly shifts to the Mandalorian story, and it just leaves Boba Fett behind. He's not even in this episode for 1 second. But anyways, Mandalorian, he meets back up with the Armorer from his Season 1, and Paz Vizsla. And she talks about the Night of a Thousand Tears, which is really cool, where they show the destruction of Mandalore. And then Din Djarin fights Paz Vizsla for the Darksaber. That was pretty cool. And after he defeats Paz Vizsla, the Armorer asks him if he's ever removed his helmet. And he has to be honest with her and admit that he has. And so at that point she tells him he's no longer a Mandalorian and he has to leave, which is kind of sad. Obviously, the dialogue you're seeing is a joke and not the actual dialogue from the show. I thought it was a pretty funny meme that I found. So then Mando heads to Tatooine, where he builds himself a new ship out of an old Naboo N1 starfighter from Star Wars, the Phantom Menace movie. And this thing is awesome. It looks so cool, and it's super fast, and he goes and races it through Beggar's Canyon, which is the same place that Anakin Skywalker did his pod racing from Phantom Menace movie. It was just an awesome episode. I gave it 9 out of 10. I would have given it 10 out of 10, but I had to knock it down a peg just for how out of place it felt and how it had no Boba Fett in a show called Book of Boba Fett. That was just odd, so I had to give it a 9 out of 10. Alright, the 6th episode, Chapter 6, From the Desert Comes a Stranger. This is my favorite episode of the series. This thing is awesome. It's action-packed. It's full of fan service, but in a really good way. We get R2-D2, we get Luke Skywalker training Grogu, having him on his back, just like when Yoda was on Luke's back in Empire Strikes Back. Ahsoka Tano shows up. She's talking to Luke. This was just awesome. And then, the icing on the cake, one of my favorite Star Wars characters, Cad Bane, shows up for the first time in live action with a showdown with Cobb Vanth. This was an awesome scene, very tense. And then the whole thing wraps up with Luke giving Grogu a choice to either take the lightsaber and learn to become a Jedi and give up those he loves, or take the chainmail shirt that Mando gave him as a gift and go back to the Mandalorian and be with him. It's just a heart-wrenching decision that Grogu has to make that we're kind of left with at the end of the episode. I thought it was a perfect way to end the episode. I gave this one a 10 out of 10. It was one of the best episodes in Star Wars television history. Okay, and then the season finale is Chapter 7, In the Name of Honor. This thing is jam-packed with some awesome stuff as well. You get Mando and Boba Fett fighting side by side against the bad guys. You get these awesome super droids that come in, apparently that are called Scorpion Neck Annihilator droids. You get Boba Fett riding his pet Rancor, and this is a callback to the first time we ever saw Boba Fett on that animated special where he's riding a Mythosaur. So that was pretty cool. And then you get Cad Bane again, and looks even better in this episode, actually. And you get this showdown between him and Boba Fett that was completely epic. Some really good dialogue between the two. Cad Bane gets the upper hand on Boba, then Boba gets out of it and then manages to defeat him by using the martial arts teachings from the Tuskens. So that was really neat to see. You get this really sweet reunion between Grogu and the Mandalorian. And then you get Grogu actually saving the day by subduing the Rancor at the end by using the Force. That was really cool. So a lot of cool things this episode. But unfortunately, we had the return of the Mod Gang.
No! God, please, no! No!
And these guys have screen time throughout the episode. And it's like every time we went back to them, I just got so turned off and irritated. It just really bothered me. It just almost ruined the episode. And then the only other issue I had was at the very end, you had this really cheesy ending with Boba and Fennec come together with the mods and Black Chrysanthemum. And they're having this little chummy chit chat as music's playing, and they're smiling and joking around, and it just felt so cheesy, kind of like the end of an after school special or something. Did not feel like Star Wars at all. It was just a very odd choice to end the show. So anyways, I probably would have given this a 9 out of 10, but because of the mods and the cheesy ending, I had to give it a 7. That was as high as I could possibly go for this one. Alright, so looking back at all the individual scores I gave the episodes, Chapter 1 was kind of meh, I gave it a 5 out of 10. Chapter 2 was great, gave it a 9 out of 10. Chapter 3 was that really terrible one with the mods, I had to give it a 2 out of 10. Chapter 4 was pretty good, not great but good, so I gave it a 7 out of 10. Chapter 5 was awesome, gave it a 9 out of 10. Chapter 6 was the best episode of the series. A perfect episode. 10 out of 10. Chapter 7, the final, was awesome, but with some terrible moments with the mods and the terrible ending, so I had to give it a 7 out of 10. And so when I take the average of all these, I came up with a 7 out of 10 overall for the Book of Boba Fett. Okay, so I gave this show an overall rating of 7 out of 10, and that really sums it up. It's a good show, but fails to achieve greatness because of the missteps, like with the Mod Gang, and the unusual timing and pacing of the show, episode to episode. It just didn't seem to flow very well, especially when you factor in that Mandalorian episode 5, where it really felt like you were watching Season 3, Episode 1 of The Mandalorian. It was a great episode. It just didn't seem like it fit with this series at the time. I mean, it had no Boba Fett in it on a show called Book of Boba Fett. So, very unusual. So, a lot of people had issues with the story arc for Boba Fett himself, leaving the bounty hunter profession to become this mafia leader / community leader on Tatooine, and I for one didn't have an issue with that. I was fine with it. I liked the story of him being with the Tuskens and learning the importance of family and being in a tribe and how you can really be stronger with others around you. It seemed like a natural transition from his solo life of being a bounty hunter, wanting to finally give that up for something more. I was fine with that. A lot of people also had issues with him kind of being the good guy, the show making him out to be the good guy. I also didn't have a problem with that, but where I had the issue was him being so good. He was just a little too nice, too caring, too quickly. I'd much rather him just be stoic with the heart of gold, on the inside, but him not showing it or learning how to show it, at least not so quickly, so I'm having a hard time explaining exactly what I mean. I think you guys understand what I'm trying to say. It just didn't sit right with me, how caring he ended up being. But anyways, overall, like I said, pretty good, not great. Had some awesome, unforgettable moments. I'll probably go back and watch them again. But I can say I'm really looking forward to The Mandalorian Season 3. And I think this is going to be it for the Book of Boba Fett. I don't see them making a Season 2, and I'm okay with that. I would like to see Boba Fett pop up again in the other series, in The Mandalorian, or maybe some other Star Wars shows in the future, because I still love him. He's still an awesome character. But I think this is going to be it for the Book of Boba Fett, and I'm totally fine with that. Alright, so with new Star Wars media comes new Star Wars toys. So we had the Book of Boba Fett show. Now we're going to get some Book of Boba Fett action figures. We know some are coming out on the Black Series and the Vintage Collection already. For the Vintage Collection, they've already announced 2 figures, the main characters, of course, Boba Fett and Fennec Shand. Boba Fett, Tatooine, coming in that deluxe box I'm not too excited about, and Fennec Shand coming on a traditional Vintage Collection card back. And I want to talk about what other characters we might see in the Vintage Collection on a Book of Boba Fett card. And so this is kind of a 10 wish list / prediction from me. And I've put them in a ranking order. The order's not so important. It's more about which characters are coming. But I did rank them kind of in importance to me personally. But again, the individual ranking is really not that big of a deal. These things could easily be swapped around. It's more about the characters that are coming. So anyways, with that being said, let's get to it. And at number 10, I have Luke Skywalker. And I was real hesitant to even put him on this list because we've got so many Luke Skywalkers in the line already. But we've never had him on a Star Wars TV series before. So I thought it'd be kind of neat to get him on there, see him on the Book of Boba Fett card. And by the way, the last time we've had Luke on a 3 3/4 figure was not long ago. It was the indoor Luke Skywalker on the Return of the Jedi card in 2021. And next up at number 9, I have the Pike Syndicate boss. He's basically one of the main villains of the series. He's not a great villain, but he's a villain nonetheless. And a pretty cool alien. So definitely need him on there. Next up is a no-brainer, Cobb Vanth. We don't seem to be getting him on a Mandalorian card. So we definitely need him on a Book of Boba Fett. And I think it will happen. He's a great character. Next up at number 7, I have the Rancor Keeper. I mean, Danny Trejo as a Vintage Collection Star Wars action figure. I mean, enough said. And next at number 6, I have the Twi'lek club owner, Garza Fwip. She's a prominent character. She's beautiful and would just make a fantastic figure. And at number 5, I have the Mayor Mok Shaiz. He's an Athorian alien. These are just really cool aliens. He has a cool outfit. I think it would make a great figure. And coming in at number 4, I really love droids, and this guy is no exception. It's 88. He's from Return of the Jedi. He's just become this amusing character on this series. One of my favorite characters of the show. So gotta have him. And by the way, we last saw his figure in 3 3/4 way back in the Power of the Force line from 1998. So it would be nice to get a new update for this figure. And at number 3, I have a tie between the Tusken Tribe Chief and the Tusken Female Warrior. I put him as a tie because I don't think Hasbro will end up making both of these figures. but we need at least one of them, and I would be cool with either one of these because they both look fantastic and both would make excellent figures. Hasbro absolutely has to make my number 2 choice, Black Chrysanthemum. This is the most awesome Wookiee I've ever seen, including Chewbacca. I mean, this guy, he's a bounty hunter and a gladiator. He's got electric brass knuckles. He just looks awesome. I can't wait to see this guy on a figure. And I'm sure you guys guessed my number 1 pick for a Book of Boba Fett Vintage Collection action figure. It's gotta be Cad Bane, the ruthless bounty hunter. He's awesome. We have not had him in a proper Vintage Collection 3 3/4 figure before. The last time we had him was in 2012 on this Clone Wars card, and it's long overdue. So make it happen, Hasbro. Alright, and there's a look at all the 10 figures, aside from Boba Fett and Fennec Shand, that I'm really hoping Hasbro will put on a Vintage Collection Book of Boba Fett card. So let me know in the comments what you thought about the Book of Boba Fett as a series. Was my review too harsh, or was I not harsh enough? And what did you think about the 10 characters I came up with for the Book of Boba Fett Vintage Collection line? Did I miss any? If so, what would you add? Alright guys, thanks for joining me again. Thank you so much to my subscribers. We'll see you next time.